Well, Kenya's biggest public works project since colonial times is a $5 billion test of the Belt and Road Initiative's pledge to be a win-win for China and its African partners. Viewers Ndimyake Mwakalyelye narrates part one of our three-part series.
It is the biggest public works project ever in Kenya, a $3.8 billion bet on the country's economic future. Sealed on a deal with China to help build a sprawling rail network in East Africa. They call it the Madaraka Express, after Kenyan Independence Day. And in its first year of operation, it has given Kenyans new freedom and optimism. The train, more widely called the SGR, for Standard Gauge Railway, is a critical link in something far bigger. China's massive Belt and Road Initiative, a $1 trillion plan to finance and build railroads, ports, roads, and other huge projects in nearly 70 countries.
So these infrastructure projects are not altruistic aid projects. What the Chinese get out of it, or what Chinese companies get out of it, are lucrative infrastructure contracts, where not only Chinese construction firms win these contracts, but they also pull along a number of smaller suppliers and other Chinese companies that also get to participate.
Belt and Road projects are certifying China's ascent to the top trade partner for African states.
Everything is negotiated in China. The money is paid in China, like the SGR money is supposed to have been paid in China. What is brought to Kenya is the debt.
To build the railway's first leg, Kenya borrowed almost all the $3.8 billion cost from the Chinese. Same for the next section, now under construction, another $1.5 billion. The debt makes China far and away Kenya's biggest lender. Repayment was forgiven for 5 years, but in 2019, loan obligations to the Chinese will rise more than fivefold. Critics fear the debt will make the SGR a long-term loser, a victim to China's debt trap diplomacy.
The magnitude of that debt, the ability to repay, the magnitude of those loans in comparison to the gross domestic product, all does matter. And I don't think that level of analysis has been conducted for these projects. And therefore, I say we need to worry.
Kenya Railway and government officials declined VOA's interview requests. So did the SGR's builder, China Road and Bridge Corporation, and the Chinese embassy. Across Africa, the needs are great. The Africa Development Bank said countries face an annual infrastructure funding gap of some $70 to $108 billion. China has pledged $60 billion in financing for Belt and Road projects in Africa.
So there's some justified skepticism on the part of the World Bank and other international financiers on the economic viability of some of these new railways. Estimates for the economic viability of the Kenyan railway really depends on whether or not the targets for freight can be met. This, in a large part, will depend on how well the Chinese and Kenyans can cooperate in localizing skills and knowledge to operate and maintain this railway in order to make it sustainable.
It's too early to say whether the Madaraka Express will be an engine of progress for all Kenyans. But there's no doubt it's already a win for the Chinese.
Well, in part two of our China-Africa series, conservationists protest that Chinese contractors rushed the Kenyan railway project into Nairobi National Park, home to hundreds of species without adequate environmental studies. You won't want to miss it. So be sure to watch Africa 54 on Tuesday.